Organize in Lewiston-Auburn was terrible as far as the gay movement. It was a hard city to organize. I tried to get involved as much as I could, but tried to get other people involved in this area was very difficult. You know, they had jobs, afraid to lose their jobs, you know, school teachers and so forth. I understood where they were coming from. Broken windshields. I probably replaced my windshield in my truck probably 6 times one year. Yeah. Cut tires, bent windshield wipers, you know. So the first few years was a lot of damage to vehicles. Broken windshields mostly.
Yeah.
You know, you replace them and move on.
Heterosexual world is very threatening to people who are just coming out, especially around the time of the gay marriage debate and the don't ask, don't tell, because many people would put down the homosexual or the bisexual, transgender communities.
I had challenges going to high school in Lewiston.
And I didn't know a single gay person growing up. I was the only out person my last semester of my senior year of high school.
People actually say, are there really kids like that around here? I don't know any kids like that. People don't even realize that there are queer youth in this county. That's the level of isolation that many people over the years didn't even know that it was an issue.
There were people in the community who had expressed a need, young youth and adults who were saying we need something for young people in this community. The young people chose outright Lewiston-Auburn as the name, started having drop-ins in April of 1997. It was our first drop-in.
And that at that point, it really was almost like a secret handshake to know where to go. And we didn't tell very many people about Outright because we didn't want people who weren't supportive or who were outright hostile to show up.
I was first involved in Outright when I was 13. I remember my mom driving me to the first meeting that I went to, and it was in the basement of the Lewiston Y before they had gotten their own space.
We had 2 big Rubbermaid containers with books and magazines and just all our stuff. Every Friday night, a couple of adults would show up, a bunch of young people would show up, they'd pull out the boxes, and it was Outright in a box. And we did that for a long time. But then the AIDS Coalition of Lewiston-Auburn, which was our parent organization, got some new space and had a room in there for Outright. So we went from Outright in a box to Outright in a room.
And now, you know, we've had this wonderful relationship with the First Universalist Church of Auburn, where lots of people who are churchgoers have become volunteers. There's a space here for us, and that's helped us have continuity.
It felt good to say, this is our room, and when we leave, we don't have to hide all the gay things and put them in a box and put the lid on it and shove it under the table. You know, we were grateful to the Y. It was wonderful. We couldn't have done it without them, but it was really nice to have a space that didn't have to hide in a box.
Originally, it had my participation in Outright centered more along just going to the youth group and talking with people and meeting new people. I was probably the youngest person there.
People from all over the state will come. I've met people from towns that I've never ever been to. It's a real awesome way for people to just be in a very comfortable environment where you can meet other people and, you know, make friends and not feel like you're the only queer in the whole world.
It gives a focal point for any queer youth in Maine to come together and have a place to network and have information and have fun.
I started going to Outright when I moved to Maine for college. As soon as I was old enough to be an advisor at 25, I officially became an advisor. And during most of that time, I was actually one of the first co-coordinators of the GSA at Edward Little.
There was a group that was sort of a GSA that had been meeting for a really long time, secretly, literally in a closet. Finally, those students got together with Outright. and folks from Outright, and actually were able to start a real official GSA. They do like multiple events a year now, and it's really, really awesome, and I think maybe their posters don't even get ripped down anymore, which is really exciting.
I got involved with Outright through the ELHS GSA. I was first coming out around that time, and I talked to a guidance counselor who introduced me to the GSA, and it really helped improve my self-esteem around that whole area.
Really, when I started in the GSA, it was just this little clique of like a few people who felt comfortable enough to go, and then when I started facilitating, it just blew up, and there were all kinds of, you know, like band kids and anime kids and all these kids who like didn't feel comfortable going to like any other student group and didn't feel like safe anywhere in Edward Little going to the GSA, and being really psyched to be able to talk about gay stuff and sex and all kinds of stuff that you're not really able to be real about in high school most of the time.
I think my favorite Outright memory would be when I first came out and found my first boyfriend in the GSA at ELHS, because that was a really great experience. I was really feeling very confident at that time, and I won't ever forget that.
I'm very appreciative now, looking back as an adult, at the number of positive role models that Outright provided for us. I remember several counselors very fondly. Erica and Steve were really great. Penny was particularly wonderful. I spent a lot of time with Penny and in her office with her dog. It was just, the value of the mentorship is something that shouldn't be understated.
Because I've been a part of Outright, I've been inspired to start a queer allied type group at my local community college I'm attending.
I've been able to actually observe like people forming these like really close like bonds of kinship, and like I think in terms of, you know, surviving as a young queer person, like we don't really have much if we don't have those bonds and we don't have people watching our back.
The Youth Summit is an opportunity for queer youth all throughout Maine to come together to one place. This year we did it at Unity College, and we offered workshops. There was safe sex workshops, history of queer things, music and art expression.
We got to talk about racism and sexism, heterosexism, classism, all sort of through a queer lens, but making connections between other marginalized groups, which I think is really helpful in Maine to make those connections, because people often see themselves as like separate marginalized groups, but not realizing that, you know, we all have multiple identities, not just one single monolithic identity, and that we actually all like experience oppression in certain ways.
They were lots of fun. It was great to get like kids from all over the state who didn't really have access to that into Lewiston for them. They were tons of fun.
Outright Lewiston-Auburn has been incredibly adept at survival.
Whether there's money or not, we still have tons of really cool people who understand why Outright needs to continue and why we're here. And so we keep going. You know, really amazing youth who'd be like, yeah, we can put on a dance. You know, all we need is some streamers, and like we can like wear our, you know, skirts and, you know, put on our mascara, mustaches, and bring our iPod, and we have a dance. And you know, that consistency of having 1 or 2 dances a year has helped Outright grow.
We started the Lewis Dunning Dragapalooza, which was named by one of our Outright youth, Deacon, which is a great name.
I got involved with Dragapalooza 2 years ago because of Conrad. He had called me up and he wanted a local celebrity. I was more than happy to volunteer my time.
By combining efforts together, we have a drag show where both youth performers, many of whom are performing for the first time, as well as professional performers, share the stage for the night and put on a totally hilarious, totally amazing show for an audience of about 300.
I mean, as much fun as I have on stage with Dragapalooza, I love the halftime, when I can mingle with the audience before the show and after the show. Like I said before, people are so less intimidated by Shauna Ray, the drag queen, than they are Dan, the gay male.
Just being able to like make that space and carve out that space in Lewiston-Auburn for young people and for adults to come together and celebrate our totally wacky and wild selves. I think it totally shatters the illusion that like there are no gay things in Lewiston-Auburn. You know, like it's happening here, queer things are happening here, you know?
I don't think Outright is going to go away, and I don't think that the need for Outright is going to go away, because even though we think, well, we see all these famous people on TV who are coming out, so I guess the world is safe now, it's still, for every person who comes out, they have their own experience and their own, it's scary. It's still scary for every single person who has to say, oh my God, I'm not like all the other kids. There's something different about me. There's a reason why the other kids tease me.
We lose a lot more than what the media is showing us due to homophobia and unacceptance of our youth that want to identify as who they are.
Outright saved my life. No exaggeration.
No matter how comfortable schools get and communities get, I still think there are a lot of issues that kids aren't going to talk about unless they're talking about it around their peers. So we need to keep it going, and we need to keep it going in any way we can. Like I said, I wish there would have been something like that around for me.
We want to make it better right now, right here in Lewiston-Auburn, here in Maine, here in the United States.
I used to say that I wanted to come a time when we didn't need to have Outright Lewiston-Auburn, that we would sort of work ourselves out of existence. And over the years, what I've come to, I think, realize is that the young people who are coming to us 14, 12 years ago are different than the young people who are coming to Outright now. And that's a shift in our culture, in what's happening in young people's lives. And I used to think, oh, we'll just work ourselves out of a job and we won't be needed. And now my belief is that we'll always be needed by someone, and that it's about shifting what we do to meet what those needs are and the changing community and the changing youth culture.